I'm all that's left.
His vision blurred around the edges, and sound could not reach his ears except the tussling of bodies all around him. Seolan citizens tumbled over one another, fleeing from the quickly advancing Kragaan Legion. What few reports managed to break through the jamming arrived a day too late, allowing the Legion to literally flow from any nook and cranny into Parile City. People were in such a panic that anyone who fell underfoot was trampled, so he pushed his own people down to the ground to ensure he would not be sucked under. He remembered a small Acutian girl, such beautiful yellow eyes, but he had no time to think, even as she cried out and gripped onto his shirt before going under. He absolutely had to escape. The bodies of the entire city's population clogged the starport's entry, so close that many asphyxiated standing up, being crushed by the scared and clinging population crammed together. The Chedian growls out, suddenly being lifted up and pushed forward into a tight space. Next to him, a Brahmin female fought back against the crowd, pushing back with her immense strength, but not even that was enough. Her arms sickly buckled under the stress, and her stomach was pushed into her chest from a panicked Chedian, forcing all the air out of her lungs. The Chedian watches the Saul suffocate right in front of him, terror writhing across his face. Distant cries of terror and pain could be heard, even over the roar of panic in the streets. Some smart citizens were climbing over each other, stepping on heads and shoulders of the compacted mob to get to safety of higher ground. The Chedian kicked his feet around, knocking over a few around him so he could be set free. In that short instant, many fell on the ground and separated, allowing him his freedom. Upon looking down, he saw another Chedian, a young woman, barely of age, looking up with a swollen ankle cradled in her hands.
Please, please don't leave me here. Please help me.
She whimpers out, reaching up to the older Chedian. He only has moments to think as the mob recompresses on the vital space, bodies clogging up all around them both. He chooses to ignore her pleas, lifting himself up and over the top of the mob as it closed down on the sobbing young Saul. The Legion broke through the outside of the flooded streets, forcing the entire crowd forwards. Cries of terror and fevered protests as everyone underneath his feet started fighting each other to break free, like rats caught in a trap. He took no time, carefully increasing his speed across the mob top until he made it to the front entrance. It was clogged tight, with bodies and screams, so no one could make entry even if they tried. He looks around him, observing some citizens had made their way to the top of a nearby building and were leaping over the opening to get to the starport balcony. One woman tosses her child to the Seolans on the other side, but she lost her footing and tumbled straight off the edge to her doom below. He took no hesitation and quickly scaled the building to the rooftop. With the Legion crawling around below them, it was a miracle he survived. Only one ship remained, and the engines were running hot and ready to go. Two Seolans ahead of him moved across the rooftops, lining their feet squarely to make the jump. The first leaps wildly and very short, screaming as he goes straight down into the swarms of Kragaan below. The second Seolan bursts into a dead sprint, leaping up and out onto the opposite balcony safely. The older Chedian could hear the mauling of bodies and screams of Seolans trapped in the street below. He mumbles a silent prayer for his ongoing luck thus far. He follows as everyone else did, leaping over the edge and landing roughly on the balcony. A few straggling Seolans, wounded legs and arms, waved for help on the other side, hoping to gain entry to the balcony. The old Chedian watched as multiple Kragaan breached the rooftop, snarling and tackling the group of wounded right off the roof. Wanton death. He moves away, narrowly avoiding a thrown javelin from the other side, then quickly makes to the starport pad for the last ship out of the doomed city. Everyone who went ahead were already on the transport ship, barking profanities at the pilot who was waiting for an absolute last one. Then the Chedian runs across the landing pad, leaping onto the door.
I'm all that's left. The Legion is right behind me,
he says, turning around to watch the Kragaan Legion come over the sides. As the transport ship blasted off, 3 carved-up Seolans shambled up the stairs, waving their free arms for the ship to stop. But the pilot flew away as fast as he could and abandoned them on the landing pad. The doors then closed on the last image of those 3 being brutally overtaken by the Legion soldiers. No one said anything for a long while. Only gentle sobbing from one Acution K, who held some kind of trinket to his forehead as he rocked back and forth. Several Brahmin next to him were muttering prayers and tugging on prayer beads. One Chedian hurled in between his legs, then promptly passed out. The older Chedian's legs barely worked, so he slid down the bulkhead and sat on the ground. He feels surprised as the sensation of warm wetness came to his pants. The young girl next to him had wet herself from intense fear.
Greetings, travelers! Many stories of cities being completely wiped off the map were commonplace during the Kragaan Wars, mostly because of the speed which the Legion traveled through the Empire. The Legion itself is not a smart military force, but a visually terrifying and psychologically scarring lump of claws and fangs. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell to hear about my next video. As usual, good ventures on your travels, and may we see each other soon.